this shit go for men and women. Bro, it's love out here, man. A lot of y'all problem is that you still using the past to determine what you see moving forward. A lot of y'all still traumatized from shit that you went through. Hell, a lot of y'all probably done already met your fucking soulmate, but you wasn't who you needed to be, so you didn't even recognize that shit. It's like motherfuckers saying, I wish I would have bought Bitcoin back in fucking 2012 or some shit. Yeah, motherfucker, you already had your blessing. Your blessing was right there. But because you weren't who you needed to be mentally and emotionally to recognize the shit when it was in front of you, it didn't look like a blessing. It looked like some stupid shit. Think about it. When a street dude go to jail and he get out and change his fucking life and become a God-fearing man and all this other shit, didn't nothing change? People was already preaching that shit. People was already around you telling you this shit on the internet, in the newspaper. This shit, I promise you, this shit came across you. The only reason you didn't do it at that time was because it looked like bullshit to you. Because of who you were inside, mentally and emotionally, when you looked at the outside, you saw bullshit. That's why two different people can live in the same neighborhood and both walk outside and see a different world. One person sees a happy world, the other person sees a fucking depressed ass world. The world isn't objectively happy or depressed. You are happy or depressed. And it's the same shit with like ink blots when your therapist hold up, look at this shit. So most of y'all already done had your partner and you either fucked them over or you turned them down or you weren't attracted to them. But the reason you did all of that is because you weren't who you needed to be to find them attractive or to recognize them as a soulmate. If you was a fucking street motherfucker and you found the bitch of your dreams, but she was like not into that shit, you didn't see her as your wife. You saw her as just a regular bitch. But see, if you was a different type of motherfucker, if you had already changed within yourself, you wouldn't have seen her as that. You would have seen her as, oh, this is my wife. I see it. That's the thing. A lot of y'all want shit that you want, but you haven't thought about what is it gonna take for you to change to be ready for that thing. Most people just want to have. They don't want to be. They don't want to change. That's why most people who win the lottery or get money real quick go broke, because keeping money doesn't have nothing to do with how much you got. Keeping money is determined by how you think about money. You know the people who get a lot of money real fast and go broke. You know why they go broke? Because when they see money, they don't think about investments. They don't think about keeping the money. They don't think about buying things that appreciate. And you know why they don't think about that? Because of who they are within themselves and who they are already. They haven't learned the things they need to learn or seen the things they need to see or made the mistakes they need to make to fucking be who they need to be, to recognize what they need to recognize, to have what they need to have. The fact that you think it's okay to just waste your money, that is a problem. You have to think that's an issue. The only reason a motherfucker ever went to rehab is because at some point they started to feel like the drugs were a problem. You can't find one motherfucker that's on their sober journey that still doesn't think that them doing drugs was a problem. The first step to being sober is to come from the side of doing drugs is okay to doing that shit is not okay. Until you change that view, you won't begin to take them steps. So add that to dating. Most of y'all traumatized. Most of y'all think that the way you are and the things you do in relationships are all okay. You think you only gotta change a little and then you could get a bunch. No, you have to change a fucking bunch to get that little. So bro, it's love out here. It is. I've been in my relationship 4 years, ain't never cheated. Me and my girl ain't never had no problems like that. Never put our hands on each other. Don't even argue like that at all. We don't even assume if the other person is feeling some type of way. We ask questions. If I walk in that room after an argument or something and she got a frown on her face, I'm gonna ask her, hey, are you irritated? We got a pact with each other that we must answer that question. You have to ask the other person how they feel before you assume what they feel, and then the other person has to answer. But in order for us to have this type of relationship, we have to be the type of people that even are willing to do that or accept that or even believe that fucking solution could work. The problems with relationships and life and goals and shit for most people, the problem is y'all are trying to find methods of where you can have everything you want by only having to do a little and then change even less. But the reality is you attract what you are. And you are only going to like the things that you are. That's why street dudes only like to hang around other street dudes. They only feel fully comfortable around them. That's why messy bitches only like and feel fully comfortable around other messy bitches. You can say all that shit you want, but this is the truth. For the unconscious human being, which most people are, whoever you are, for the majority, mentally and emotionally, your life is going to reflect that shit. So 9 times out of 10, the dude you want, you wouldn't even be able to have fun with him. You wouldn't relate to him. You wouldn't even be compatible with him because you're not on that fucking level. You have to be that to attract and have that and be compatible with that. That's why you got a lot of bitches that say, I can't have a dude like this, because you're not that type of person. You want a kind, loving, and compassionate man, but you are not a kind, loving, and compassionate woman. And even if you tell yourself that, then ask yourself, why haven't you found one? Because they are out here. You can either lie to yourself and say they not out here, or you can admit that you are not that type of person. Therefore, you have not attracted, bumped into, recognized, or seen that type of man. I know a lot of y'all want to find shortcuts to way you can get what you want without having to change, but that's bullshit. You have to be what you want to have. And if you don't want to do that, you won't have it. Because if you think two people that's vibrating on 2 different frequencies gonna stay together and build something, you're high. Because just to show a shit stank, life will separate that shit. Because that is a law of nature. Like attracts like. If me and my girl were not vibrating in the same way, if I went up higher in terms of how I am within myself, or went lower and she doesn't come up with me or go down with me, if we are not on the same level, we will be separated. One of us will either die, one of us will get bored. Life will ensure that this shit we're doing together will not last. You want to have something to bring something forth into your life, you need to be that emotionally and mentally. Once you do that, then your beliefs will change. Once your beliefs change, then the actions that you think are okay and bad will change. And once you change the things that you think are good and bad, you've basically changed your course. And once you change that, you'll be in different places, different circumstances, and different consequences. That will lead you to the thing. That's all I'm saying. Ain't nothing wrong with the dating pool or life. It's you.